a brief opening statement, and then we'll go to Q&A.
Sure. Well, hopefully everybody's doing well out there. I know a lot of media members were impacted by the pandemic and whatnot, but certainly wishing all the best and your well-being, of course, being something that we always want you guys to be healthy and ready to roll as the season begins. But very thankful to our administration and the efforts of everybody to make the season a reality as we get going here. So with that being said, ready for questions.
Okay, we've got quite a few in the queue, but if any media have questions, please use the raise hand function. First question will go to James Crepier.
Mario, a couple of personnel updates. Is there an update on Thomas Graham, just as far as does he have any chance to opt back in at this point before Friday? And are there any other players who have opted out that we are unaware of at this time?
As of right now, I don't have any information regarding Thomas Graham doing anything but doing what he has been doing, which is opted out and preparing for the NFL draft. And as of right now, it's the only information we have on opt-outs.
Gotcha. With Jordan Happel coming in, I know he had played free safety for Boise State and Andy before. Does that allow for a move for Verone back to nickel, or how do you guys approach that before Friday?
Well, yeah, it allows for flexibility and some depth. Certainly, Jordan is a talented guy. He knows the system extremely well. He's a great player in high school. You know, was a big name out in Portland, but did a great job over there and had a couple injuries, got a little bit banged up, but he joins a talented crew of guys that have really waited their – I want to say waited their turn because, you know, when you say a guy like Verone has played some really good football for the Ducks, and Verone is young. Verone is going to be a great player, has been a great player for us here this past season. So the combination of him and, you know, Nick Pickett and all these other guys, Jamal Hill certainly doing a great job, has been doing a great job ever since he's been here. You've got some guys back that are itching and scratching and clawing for playing time. And the list goes on and on. You know, certainly Bennett Williams is another guy that we look to doing big things, but no one has mentioned Steve Stevens, and I think it has to be mentioned because Steve, in the 4 days of spring ball that we had, you know, I know the outside world hasn't heard of him much, but he certainly showed up in spring ball. I expect, we all expect him to have himself a really good football season for us.
And who gets the first look on Friday at right tackle? Is it George? Is it Randazzo? Does Sala get bumped outside on occasion early in camp? What's the approach at right tackle?
You know, it's we're going to determine that tonight and tomorrow. We have some really good options. We feel good about it because it's become really competitive in these skill instruction sessions that we've had with our team. And we feel that we have the flexibility to put a couple different guys out there and a couple different combinations all in all. So I think I'll have a better, more firm answer for you on Thursday. I wish you could be here, buddy. Sorry.
Thanks.
Okay, next question will go to Ryan Thorburn.
Mario, your first 3 years at Oregon, obviously you had Justin taking snaps. I know Tyler is the front runner entering this thing, but he's a young player. You have a grad transfer in. You have 3 other really young, talented players. How are you approaching this quarterback situation? And is it different than the last 3 years when you knew you had a number one guy?
No, it certainly is different, right? You know, we've been accustomed to seeing number 10 take every snap under center for a good chunk of time now. And, you know, you've seen bits and pieces of practice, probably more drill work than anything else. But something that I've said from the beginning, Justin's departure is that Tyler Shuck has done a great job. He really has. When he's had his opportunities in there in practice and in spring ball, he got off to a great start. He has a natural just field presence. He has a commanding presence out there. And in the short amount of time that Anthony Brown has been here, he also is an extremely talented guy that really is hungry driven, just like Tyler. And, you know, he's done some great things. He's had a really good career out there at Boston College. And you've got 3 young guys, you know, so we'll enter day one with Tyler taking the first reps and with Anthony taking the reps with the 2s. But we're gonna make it a competition. But it starts off like that. And then the other 3 guys, they're talented guys, and we have to ramp them up. They, unfortunately, the consequences of not being able to have spring ball, not being able to have our player-led practices like we normally do in the summer, really impacts that position, probably more than any other position. But we have a pretty unique way of ramping people up. They're hungry, and as long as they are, they'll have a shot. And as soon as we feel they are ready to enter that competition, they'll be in it. Right now, they're competing with each other to see who could vie for that third, second spot.
Okay, next question will go to Tyson Alger.
Hey Mario, just curious, how much football have you been able to watch over the last several weeks? And just from watching that, is there anything that you've been able to pick up on that you might bring to training camp with you, or even any other coaches that you know in those areas, that and just how they've prepped for their seasons? What have you been able to kind of pick up from what you've seen?
Sure. Well, the best part is you get to call games without consequence and let them play out, learn from them, jot down your notes. I think schematically, you've seen a couple wrinkles here and there that I think everyone has been really fascinated by, and will probably add to their scheme. But more than anything, I think you see the teams that have really focused on technique and fundamentals, playing with toughness and being in great shape. They're the ones that are really kind of punching through in the fourth quarter and winning football games. So football's football, whether you have a lot of time to prepare a little bit. So that has stood out. I think you also see how that tackling and missed tackling has really been like the focal point of a lot of issues out there on defense. When I say issues, I'm not being critical of other teams. Heck, we haven't played it down, so we don't have anything to say about anything. Just observation-wise, it's something that, we haven't played a game since January 1st. We had 4 spring practices. We have to tackle. We have to tackle. You have to tackle the right way. You have to practice smart. And I think also the teams that have shown that they can make the sacrifices and get their entire roster or most of their roster to game day by following protocol and, staying COVID free, have also proven just the strength of a better depth chart, of a larger roster, has also proven to be really effective.
Thank you.
Okay, next question, we will go to Matt Prim.
Hi, Mario. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, buddy.
Curious, remember when you got the job a couple years ago, you mentioned the depth and how you felt like your first string was pretty good, but you needed to get more bodies, more talent. Going into this season now with the opt-outs, I'm curious, what, just both sides of the ball, what's your thoughts on the depth that you have for a season in which you could be asked to go 3 deep sometimes because of COVID and the circumstances that we're in?
Sure. No, that's always going to be the challenge with an unprecedented type season, right, with what's going on. So how do we see it? How do we view it? Like we always have, the culture certainly doesn't change. Nothing's from a principle value standpoint, from a standard standpoint. And I think one thing that really stands out is the excitement to see other guys step up and play. We've recruited good football players, and albeit there's some guys that don't have the same experience, and we're used to seeing certain jerseys out there, right? They've been here for a long, long time. But there's some really good players that have been working for their moment as well. The importance of hydration, nutrition, getting to bed on time, proper protocol, anything that keeps your team healthy, that keeps your depth chart to what it needs to be to effectively play at a high level, and just as importantly, practice at a high level. It's paramount. It really is. Our numbers are affected some. I think there's a couple teams that have been affected by the opt-outs, but that's not their fault. And no one's upset. No one is feel sorry for anybody or having less numbers. I mean, we're very lucky. We have the opportunity here to have recruited really good players and developed really good players that have an opportunity to go on and play at the next level. I mean, that to me is a testament to the team, testament to the process, while at the same time, their brothers now have a chance to uphold the legacy and really elevate the standard. And that's how we see it. We see it as a cultural, just natural progression is what we do and what we see it. And, you know how we do things. We are, our operation, man, it doesn't waver. It doesn't.
Does that kind of hammer home the importance of recruiting at such a high level? Because when you do, guys leave, but you have the depth and the talent waiting in the wings. They just don't have that experience.
Without a doubt, you can't. It's hard to have success if you have a top shelf player and you haven't developed guys to be a top shelf player, or you haven't recruited them, and then go to a situation where the talent is nowhere near what was left vacated. That's a problem. And you see it right in the NFL when guys get hurt, and those are sort of shrunken rosters compared to what we have. So without a doubt, it's player development, talent acquisition, and of course, personnel use. Those things all go hand in hand, and you can't compromise a single one of them if you want to be successful.
Okay, next question will go to Eric Scopel.
Hey, Coach, thanks for doing this. Hopefully we can do this face-to-face at some point again.
That's good.
A couple questions here. First off, I guess the response to the schedule that was released, just how is it challenging? Maybe how is it favorable? Kind of how do you perceive it? And then secondly, I wanted to clarify a comment you made last week about the offensive install. Is it fair to say or accurate that you guys have most or all that offense in? And you can speak to how you guys were able to accomplish that given the bizarre circumstances of this offseason.
Well, okay. First question in terms of the schedule. I think anytime you play in the Pac-12, it's going to be a challenging schedule. We're familiar with the guys in the North. Obviously, tremendous respect for those teams. Excellent football teams and traditions, and a crossover game with UCLA, who's got great talent and great coaching. So, for us, in terms of the challenge, we just see it as opportunity. This opportunity, tremendous amount of respect for those teams. And I guess the best thing here is that understanding that for us to be good, we have to know and realize that every team is talented, and that unless you're at your very best, you can and will get beat. So knowing that, studying these rosters, knowing that the way that things were kind of rolling and during the pandemic, that you could be playing anybody, we did an extensive and deeper dive in each and every team in the conference, meaning that we didn't know who the crossover game was going to be against. So feel good about preparation there. And you had a second question. It slips my mind. Please remind me.
The offensive install, you guys, I think last week you said you had it all in. I was curious how you got that done.
Oh, well, we're allotted a certain amount of time to meet with these guys as well as walk through. And we have ramped up. We've used every minute that we have possibly can use both ways. And at the same time, we've seen good leadership. And that's what has to happen right now. That's what has to happen, because even though we've lost talent, we have really, really good and great talent coming up. We lost some really good leaders. What has to happen now is all these guys, all these faces and names that you have seen as, hey, this is the next guy to be the next great player at Oregon or whatnot. Their leadership has to match their ability and their performance. And we've seen a lot of that transpire over the course of the last several weeks. And for us, it's been a little bit challenging because, remember, we're a quarter school. So when the season was postponed back in August, I believe the 11th, we allowed our guys to go home. So I'd been gone for 5 weeks. They got back about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. And as we started ramping up, we realized, okay, with this catapult sports and sports science system, the GPS system, we seen where they came back ahead of what we thought they would. That led them to be able to ramp up quicker. And the old saying, drinking through a fire hose. I mean, that's what these guys have done, and they've done a good job. They've done a good job just digesting the information, putting it to use. So it's all systems go.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next question will go to AJ McCord.
Hey, Coach, thanks for doing this. Looking forward to the season, as I'm sure you are. I was wondering, sort of along the same lines, obviously COVID is kind of the headliner in that it is the factor that could change everything. And so we've seen in the NFL, there's been teams where, like the Patriots, they have 1 or 2 players test positive, but then that's it. And then the Titans have 15, 20 people test positive. Have you gleaned anything from either other college coaches or NFL programs of ways that they're training so that if you do get a positive case, it may not spread to the entire team?
Well, we have spent an eternity just with phone calls, Zooms, FaceTimes, talking to anyone and everyone that we know, because they've been going through it. They've had camp, they've had a season start, and some have done really well and some have been hit. And daily testing is the real game changer here. But daily testing, right, has you at least feeling, protected up until they leave the facility. So the protocol is something that it's now a way of life. Like, the mask really doesn't come off, and you're going to have to make sacrifices for the 4-month period of time that the season is going to last. Because if you don't, the old saying, if you leave your nose open, you can get hit, and you can get hit really hard. And so to help that, I think one thing that's been really helpful is, as daily testing goes on, everyone in the building, we carry out the same processes that we did when we didn't have daily testing. Our masks are on, we're socially distant in our meetings and all that. And when we go out to the field, we have certain protective covers that we have when we don't have the helmet on, or when we have our helmet on, it has that. So to be able to prevent, God forbid, a situation where someone happened to be positive. But the daily testing captures that, and it captures it each morning before we go out there. I think the biggest challenge is always that these are young men, and there's a lot going on in their lives. A lot of these classes are online courses now. That helps. Creating our own bubble is the key to the whole thing, as best we can, and just treating everything and everyone the same way with super high urgency as it relates to protocol.
Okay, thank you. Next we'll go to another AJ Jacobson.
Hey, Coach, like everyone else said, thanks for doing this. Good to see you again. I was looking at the linebacker depth chart heading into this camp here, and it's just kind of crazy because you got this great mix of veterans who have been very good for this program, and then this infusion of talented youth. Talk about this, the unit overall, and then kind of just talk about how you're going to be able to get as many on the field as possible.
Well, we're looking for big things out of all those guys. And I guess I'll start with the inside linebackers. I can't say enough about Isaac Slade and the leadership role he has taken on. He's just different. And something always happens when it's your turn, right? Like, there's a certain light that comes on, and you got a certain look in your eye. Responsibility is something that falls on your shoulders, and you take it and you run with it. He and Drew Mathis, as older guys in the program, have done a great job taking these young guys underneath their wings and expecting huge things from them, and of course expecting tremendous things from Noah Sewell and Justin Flo, Jackson LeDuc. I expect those guys to have a tremendous impact. I expect MJ Cunningham to take a huge step up. It's his time. He has to take a huge step up for us to be a successful team. Outside linebackers, obviously, it's we play with edge players, so I think on the media sheet it says outside linebacker. We list them as edge players, but looking at guys like, obviously you guys know Kayvon and Mace, but now Adrian Jackson is a guy that, we want for him, just because he's been through such a tough injury. We want to see a guy like that be healthy, kick up his mentality to a different level, and have success, because he could impact the team, So there's a lot of guys like that now where it's like, it's time, it's time. Something is brewing, and it's positive, and now it's time to make that a reality and practice every day and carry it over to the game. But I go on and on. Isaac Townsend, Andrew Faliu. I mean, Jaden Navarrete has joined us this year. Braden Swinson, a guy was here and took part in winter conditioning. Whatnot, Trev and Mai. So there's a good chunk of guys there that we feel as edge players, outside linebackers and inside linebackers, that are going to have opportunities in camp, because we're going to practice the way we practice. That's not going to change. We may be limited in time and the amount of days that we practice, but we will have enough time to sort this out and put our best guys on the field.
Okay, next question will come from Nick Krupke.
All right, what does it say about just the respect that your program has earned after all this time here, that you've lost so much, and yet you guys are the overwhelming favorites again in the North?
Oh, you know me well enough where that's something that never factors into what we pay attention to in the program. In fact, it's the opposite. We live our daily lives and practice like we have everything to prove. Our guys take notice. I mean, we know last year none of them were were picked by their, their peers to be all conference players and all that stuff. So no one in this program feels like they have arrived. There are no sacred cows. There is no entitlement. If someone feels that way, they'll have to, exit the door immediately. We're based on being hungry and being humble and driven. And that's the only thing on our minds right now. So that's it.
How about just as important as it is right now to have that culture instilled where accountability from one man to the next might be the difference between who's standing at the end and who's not?
That's a great point. I don't think you could have said it better. That's it right there. That's it. People talk about what do you want to see in camp and what's your expectation? I want to see an elevation of the culture. I want to challenge these guys in their personal lives and their football regimen to just not accept anything less but their very best, and to not tolerate anything that doesn't uphold the standards of our culture. And our culture doesn't just maintain itself. And you certainly can't assume that it's going to grow. You've got to hit the restart button on it, and you got to do it daily. Heck, you may have to do it several times a day, and understand that's the key to us here. That word is real here, and it's been validated with a significant step this past season. And it's got to continue. The trajectory's got to keep going up and up. We feel it's just the beginning, but in a hungry way, there's nothing taken for granted. We have a lot of work to do. We look forward to doing it. We understand we're playing some great football teams with some great players. And honestly, we just want to get to work.
Okay, next question will come from Hayden Herrera.
Hey, Mario, just looking at your running back core, a balance of, experience in youth, what can guys like CJ and Travis do more that, every year they've kind of improved upon their stats. What could they do this year in this, off year to still kind of keep that trajectory going? And sorry, part two, I don't know if you saw Joe Judge using Shane Lemieux at fullback. Did Mastro ever recommend that to you in the past couple of years when Lemieux was here?
No, but Shane recommended it to me several times about how he should be in the backfield. Okay. And now he has validation from the NFL. So my argument holds no water. Shane wants to do that. NFL guys are smarter than I am. So, but I think you got to throw Cyrus in that along with those guys as well. That is a core group of guys that is now in year 3 of playing ball here. And you're looking at guys, they're all different in their style of running, but they're all the same type of human being, leader and teammate. They are what you want. In the fourth quarter, when the game's on the line, they are what you want when there's time to emphasize protocol. The expectation from them is nothing but their very best, and now elevate their voice in terms of being vocal leaders as well, and holding a high standard and making sure their teammates hold a high standard. By them doing it first, I think they first bear the responsibility of working with a couple of young guys, like Sean Dollars, who's going to be a phenomenal football player. I mean, already he's showing flashes. He did, especially during the practices over there in the Rose Bowl, of a guy like Trey Benson, who just got here and is a large man that can flat out go. Guys like Cross Pat and KJ Maduki have been here. They spent a lot of time here, and they put in some time. So that group, that's a special group of guys. I love I go in the room and I hang out every now and then because I give them all kinds of grief about, I go in there, I want to talk about pass protection. They just want to talk about gaining chunk yardage and all that stuff. But no, I'm kidding. Those guys are team guys. They're ultimate team guys. And when those guys run hard, we're a different football team. When those guys, when those knees are churning and those legs are pumping and their pads are down, we're a different football team. So, and they know it. So excited to see them.
Okay, we've got time for a handful more. Next question from Orlando Sanchez.
Coach, like many of us have said, thank you for doing this. Looking forward to seeing you in person.
But I was wondering about the opportunity to kind of be the face of the conference on game day and be able to, be a part of the reveal of the schedules. What did that mean to you? And then also just the excitement in the building right now. Can you just describe what it's like, the anticipation to finally get back on the field?
Okay. Yeah, well, I think it's.
Can you round up on those two?
I'm proud to be a member of this. Am I back, guys? I thought I was gone there for a second.
We've got you now.
Good. Okay. No, I think it's an honor anytime you get to go on something like that. I love game day. God knows I DVR'd every single game, so the numbers that on the storage on your TV set at home, what that means. But I'm very proud to be a member of this conference. We've got some excellent teams and excellent coaches, and recruiting is really ramping up in a big time way. And then even the privilege to be a member of this program and this family, knowing that we're just getting started. This is just the beginning for us. So the fact that we're getting to play football now, it's something that when it was taken away was about as gut-wrenching and as tough mentally to take as you could possibly imagine. So this privilege of coaching, this privilege of playing is real again. It cannot be and will not be taken for granted. And the bottom line is nothing but our very best is going to be good enough in everything we do. So looking forward to it.
Okay, that's all we have time for. Coach Cristobal, thanks for your time. Best of luck with the start of camp and this upcoming season.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Go Ducks.